Good evening, my friend. I'm glad you're here, settling into a quieter part of the day, where nothing needs to be solved right now. Wherever you are listening from, I hope the room feels a little softer around you as you get comfortable. And, in the gentlest voice, welcome back to Sleepy Science Universe. Tonight we're going to drift together slowly from the hush of shoreline shallows, out into open water, down through the fading blue, and onward into the deepest, calmest trenches of the sea, not to study, not to memorize, just to let the ocean's quiet science move past you like waves in the dark. The ocean is one of Earth's oldest storytellers, and it tells its stories in temperatures, currents, and patient time. There are mountains underwater, taller than city skylines, hidden in plain blue. There is a kind of midnight snow, made of drifting life and gentle leftovers, falling through darkness. There are creatures down there that make their own small starlight, blinking softly in the black. There are travelling rivers inside the sea, invisible, steady, carrying warmth and salt across the planet. There is pressure so deep it changes what down even means, and yet life still finds a way to breathe. And there is heat blooming from the planet's inner seams, feeding whole communities without a single ray of sun. If you'd like to support this channel, you can gently tap like or subscribe and then let your hand rest again. And if you're already here often, thank you for returning to this calm little corner of the internet. Now, take a slow breath in through your nose and let it out a little longer than you took it in, as if you're letting a wave roll back into the sea. Let your shoulders drop, even by a few millimeters. Unclench your jaw, soften your tongue where it rests in your mouth, and let your eyes feel heavy as if they're already practicing sleep. Tonight, you don't need to catch any facts. You can simply listen the way you listen to rain. If something is interesting, it can drift by. If something is confusing, it can drift by too. Your only job is to be here, and even that can fade whenever it wants. Now, if you're ready, let's begin. A small wave slides up the sand and retreats, leaving a thin, shining film behind. For a moment, the beach glows, and then the glow vanishes as the water sinks back into itself. Most of the liquid water on Earth lives in the ocean, and that single fact quietly shapes everything from weather to the feel of air on your skin. The sea holds heat the way a stone holds warmth after sunset, releasing it slowly, smoothing sharp temperature swings. So while the wave looks small, it's part of a system that steadies a whole planet. Let that steadiness become a gentle thought, that something vast is holding the world, and you don't have to. And now, gently, we let the shoreline widen in our imagination. The horizon looks still, like a straight pencil line drawn between sea and sky. But the coast is always being rewritten, grain, by patient physics. Over long stretches of time, sea levels rise and fall with ice ages, warming periods, and the slow breathing of Earth's climate system. And the land itself shifts too, with basins sinking and lifting, changing how water gathers and where it rests. A coastline can feel permanent for a human life, yet on geologic time it's more like handwriting in wet sand. There's comfort in that slowness, change so gentle it feels like peace. A little farther, we drift just under the surface. In the clear shallows beneath a thin, moving sheet of water, tiny lives are busy in places you might never notice. Crabs tuck themselves into shadowed cracks. Worms and clams burrow, turning sand into a soft, living fabric. This in-between world, the intertidal zone, is built for extremes, wet and dry, hot and cool, calm and suddenly wild with a breaking wave. And still, it works. Bodies here are shaped for holding on, for closing tight, for waiting, for reopening when the moment is right. Even in a place that changes twice a day, life finds a rhythm. Softly, you can borrow that idea and let your own mind become a tide that doesn't need to fight itself. And as we drift outward, the water deepens and the colours begin to change. Your toes might feel warm in the shallows, where sunlight can reach and stir the first few meters. But farther out, the water darkens to a deeper blue, and the temperature falls more quickly than you'd expect. Sunlight warms the surface like a gentle lamp, and below that, the ocean often settles into layers, warmer above, colder below, mixing only when wind, storms, or currents have the energy to stir it. Those layers can keep heat near the top and cold in the deep, like a blanket folded in quiet bands. It's a tender contrast, warm on the surface, quiet underneath, and you can be like that too tonight. Soft and warm where you're aware, and calm and deep where you rest. For a moment, imagine yourself floating, not because you're trying, not because you're working at it, just held. It can feel like magic, but it's buoyancy, an upward push created when your body displaces water. The water presses from all sides, and the part of that pressure that matters most is the gentle upward support. That's why a ship can carry so much weight, and why a person can feel lighter in the sea. The ocean, in its own steady way, offers you a kind of permission to be supported, and in your room, your bed can do the same, holding you without asking anything back. And now, there's a quieter kind of listening. You might have done this before, lifting a shell to your ear and hearing what seems like the ocean inside it. That sound isn't the sea trapped in calcium. It's mostly the world's ambient noise, filtered and reshaped by the shell's hollow curves, turning random sound into a soft, steady hush. It's a reminder that comfort can come from how we frame what we hear. A little resonance, a little filtering, and suddenly the world feels gentler. Your mind can do that too tonight. It can turn the edges of sound into something like a lullaby. And with that hush, we widen our view as if rising above the coast. From above, shorelines look like torn lace, full of inlets and curves and delicate branching shapes. The strange thing is that a coastline's length depends on how you measure it. If you use huge steps, it seems shorter. If you use tiny steps, tracing every curve and crack, it becomes longer and longer, almost endlessly detailed. This is part of why coastlines are often described as fractal-like. Not in a perfect mathematical way, but in the sense that details keep appearing at smaller scales. Nature doesn't always give clean edges, and it doesn't need to. Some things don't require perfect counting to be beautiful. You can let your thoughts be like that too, unmeasured, uncounted, simply present. And speaking of things that travel, imagine a raindrop. It falls through air, touches earth, slips into a stream, and then joins a river that finally reaches the sea. Once there, it may linger far longer than it ever lingered on land. Ocean salinity, its saltiness, comes from long, slow processes, rocks weathering under rain, rivers carrying dissolved minerals, volcanic gases joining the water, and chemical exchanges along the seafloor. The sea is not salty because someone poured salt into it. It's salty because Earth has been dissolving and recycling and breathing chemistry for a very long time, tiny drops, countless drops, becoming an endless whole. And there's something soothing in that the smallest thing can join something vast without effort, carried gently. We begin to notice the sea is not one still body. Inside the ocean there are moving paths and layered streams, like invisible rivers flowing through blue. Some are driven by wind dragging the surface, some are driven by density. Water that is slightly colder or slightly saltier tends to sink, while warmer or fresher water tends to stay higher. And Earth's rotation nudges these flows into curves, shaping spirals and sweeping arcs that can stretch for thousands of kilometers. Even when the surface looks calm, the ocean can be traveling, quietly transporting heat, nutrients, and life. Even in stillness, there is a quiet flow, and you don't have to steer it. You can simply drift with it, one calm breath at a time. And now, a small, surprising contrast appears at the edge of land and sea. There are coasts where dry dunes meet endless water, and the air feels crisp and rainless. It seems strange, an ocean nearby but a desert on shore. Cold currents can help create that paradox. When water is cold, evaporation is lower, and the air above holds less moisture. Sometimes a cold current keeps the nearby atmosphere stable, reducing the upward lift that would form clouds and rainfall. So the sea can be present and immense, and still the land beside it can stay dry. Two opposites sitting side by side without conflict. If your mind holds two feelings at once tonight, wakefulness and sleepiness, let them share space the same way. And beneath them, the sea begins its slow breathing pattern. You can watch the waterline creep up the beach and then ease back down, as if the ocean is inhaling and exhaling. It feels alive, but it's physics and gravity, mostly the moon's steady pull, with a smaller pull from the sun, and the turning of Earth beneath the tidal bulges. In many places, the timing is predictable, a gentle schedule written into the planet's motion. The tide is not hurried. It arrives and it leaves and it returns. In that same rhythm, let your breath become slower. Inhale, softly. Exhale, longer, and again. And just for this moment, match your exhale to the imagined sound of a wave dissolving on sand. Slow breathing can activate the calming side of your nervous system, lowering heart rate and easing the body out of alertness. It's one of the simplest tools we have, and it's always been with you. Each exhale is a small return to shore, and now, gently, we'll continue drifting outward toward the long underwater porch of the continental shelf, where the sea begins its deeper descent. Just beyond that gentle porch of shallows, the seafloor keeps sloping away, almost politely. The continental shelf is like a long underwater step, wide, sun-touched and busy with life. Here, the water is still close enough to land to receive gifts from rivers and coastlines. Minerals, nutrients, tiny drifting crumbs that become food. This is one reason shelves support so many fisheries and so much biodiversity. They are not the deepest parts of the ocean, but they are some of the most alive, and there's something comforting about that. Before we ever reach the Grand Dark, the ocean offers a broad, gentle ramp, a patient introduction. So, for a moment, imagine that slow slope under you. Not a cliff, not a sudden drop, just a gradual easing into deeper blue, and as the light thins, the colour changes in a way that feels almost like a lullaby. Near shore, in shallow water, sunlight bounces off sand and can make the sea look turquoise, green, even pale gold. But as depth increases, the water becomes a truer blue. That isn't the ocean choosing a colour on purpose, it's the physics of light. Water absorbs red wavelengths first, then orange and yellow, leaving more blue to scatter back to your eyes. So the deeper we go, the more the warm colours fade away. It's like watching a room dim at night, when the bright edges soften and the world becomes simpler. And you can let that simplicity happen inside you too. Less brightness, less effort, more quiet. And now, gently, We let the surface return above us, not as a place we must stay, but as a calm ceiling of light. The ocean's top layer can look smooth like glass reflecting the sky. It's easy to think of that surface as an ending point, but it's really a skin, thin, shimmering, covering an entire living world beneath. In the upper ocean, food webs stretch from the smallest drifters to large roaming animals. Everything begins with energy, and in the sunlit layer, that energy often arrives as light. If you could hover there quietly, you might feel like you're floating above a hidden city. Busy, connected, and still gentle, calm surfaces can shelter busy, beautiful worlds, and softly, we look closer to something so small it can fit in the curve of a teaspoon. A spoonful of seawater can contain thousands of drifting organisms. Phytoplankton, tiny plant-like life, can be smaller than a grain of sand, and yet, taken together, they form one of the most important engines on Earth. They capture sunlight and turn it into chemical energy. They form the first link in many ocean food chains, and they also contribute a significant portion of the oxygen in our atmosphere as a byproduct of photosynthesis. It's a lovely paradox, something microscopic, doing something planetary. Small things can quietly keep the world breathing, and quietly, we let sunlight arrive. Imagine sunbeams cutting down into clear water like soft pillars, trembling with the movement of the surface. In the euphotic zone, the well-lit zone, photosynthesis can happen. Light is absorbed, energy is stored, and carbon becomes part of living tissue. If you've ever watched dust motes in a sunbeam, you know how peaceful it can look. Now imagine those motes are living, drifting, turning light into food. Not fast, not loud, just steadily. Light can become nourishment without rushing, and from light to life, we drift. For a moment, picture yourself weightless, turning slowly as if you're part of the water itself. Plankton are often not strong swimmers. Many of them are drifters, carried where the water carries them. Their lives are shaped by currents and tiny swirls of turbulence. They don't always choose a direction. They simply participate in the movement around them. Tonight, you don't have to push. You don't have to swim against anything. You can be carried, and floating onward, we reach a strange kind of place. A sea defined not by land, but by motion. There is a region of the Atlantic often called the Sargasso Sea, where floating brown-gold seaweed gathers into wide rafts. It isn't bordered by coastlines. It's held in place by currents, like a slow circular corral. This floating habitat becomes a home for many species, tiny fish, crabs, and creatures that blend into the weed like little pieces of leaf and shadow. It's quiet to imagine, a drifting forest in the open ocean. Even without walls, a place can feel like home, held by currents. We begin to notice the shape of those moving waters. From far above, surface currents curve in immense loops, ocean gyres, slow spirals turning across whole basins. Wind pushes the water, Earth's rotation nudges that motion into curves, and differences in temperature and salinity help shape what sinks and what stays near the top. These gyres help move heat around the planet, carrying warmth from the tropics toward cooler regions. Over long timescales, they influence climate and weather patterns, quietly linking faraway coasts. Big patterns can be made of gentle turns, and within those turns, there are smaller, softer motions too. Not everything is one grand loop. Sometimes the ocean forms eddies, swirling pockets that spin like slow underwater weather systems. An eddy can be tens of kilometers wide, and it can last for weeks or months. It can gather nutrients, mix water from different layers, and influence where plankton bloom. But from your calm viewpoint, it can be as simple as this. a small whirl forms. It turns. It fades. Like a thought that rises, circles, and then dissolves when you don't hold on to it. Some swirls are just passing visitors, so we let them pass. And now, we drift toward a coastline where the ocean offers a hidden gift. In some regions, winds and currents push surface water away from shore. When that happens, deeper water can rise to replace it. This is upwelling, and deep water often carries nutrients, nitrogen, phosphorus, and other ingredients that surface life has used up. When those nutrients rise, phytoplankton can bloom, then zooplankton, then fish, then seabirds, seals, and larger predators. A place can become rich simply because the ocean is lifting nourishment upward. What rises from depth can be a gift, and gifts continue, even in the smallest, frothiest details. Along the edge of a breaking wave, foam can gather like lace. It can look playful, light, almost meaningless. But sea foam forms through chemistry and motion. Waves churn air into water, creating bubbles, and certain organic compounds, proteins, fats, bits of living and once living material, can stabilize those bubbles, letting foam persist. So the white froth is a tiny sign of life and molecules, stirred together by the sea's constant kneading. Even froth has a quiet chemistry, and quietly, you can let your own thoughts become like foam, forming for a moment, then fading, and now, we return to the you're resting in. Imagine warm water loosening your shoulders the way a bath loosens tight muscles. Let your shoulders sink, heavy and safe. Progressive relaxation can be as simple as noticing where you hold tension, and then allowing it to soften. When muscles relax, they send fewer, tight signals back to the brain, and the brain receives that message as safety. If it helps, let your shoulders drop again. Let your hands unclench. Let your forehead smooth. Let your body learn safe through softness. And now, gently, we let our eyes drift to a bright neighborhood under the sea. In clear, warm, shallow waters, coral reefs can form cities of living stone. Corals are animals, small and soft-bodied, that build hard skeletons over time. Many corals live in partnership with tiny algae that share energy from sunlight. It's a quiet collaboration. The algae help feed the coral. The coral provides a safe home, and together they build structures that create shelter for countless other species: fish, crustaceans, snails, worms, and more. A reef is like a crowded apartment complex, except it grows from life itself. Partnerships can build whole worlds. In shared light, the ocean also keeps a long memory. Reef building has happened in different ways across Earth's history. There have been eras when certain reef builders thrived, and eras when others faded. Changes in ocean chemistry, temperature, sea level, and evolution reshaped who built and who lived in those reefs. Over time, reefs can become limestone, turning living architecture into stone. So in some places, cliffs and hills made of limestone are ancient seas, lifted up and left behind. It's a calm kind of time travel. The ocean remembers in stone. And that memory is not only in rocks, but in journeys so small you might never see them. Many marine animals begin life as larvae, tiny drifting forms that look nothing like the adults they will become. A reef fish might start as a speck, transparent and delicate. A crab might begin as a drifting creature with spines. These larvae ride currents like little travellers, dispersing across distances that would be impossible for their parents. Currents become highways, eddies become roundabouts, and the sea connects populations the way roads connect towns. You are allowed to travel without effort tonight too, carried along by a current of voice and breath, and as we follow, a shadow crosses the bright water. In the open ocean, life can be both abundant and risky. Many animals feed near the surface where food is richer, but they also face more predators there. So a common strategy is to change depth. Feed where it's productive, retreat where it's safer. Some fish and squid rise toward the surface at night and sink again by day. Some creatures hover at the edge of light, where they can see without being seen as easily. Depth can become a refuge, and you can do that as well. If wakefulness hovers near your surface, you can retreat into comfort whenever you wish. You can sink into the darker, safer layers of rest. And now, gently, we'll keep drifting, letting the ocean's surface life fade behind us and letting the next calm truths arrive, one by one, like slow waves in the night. The colours begin to drain away now, as if someone is slowly turning down a dimmer switch in the sea. First the reds are gone, then the oranges, and then the warm yellows, until what remains is a soft, thinning blue. It can feel like the ocean is choosing darkness on purpose, but it's simply how light behaves in water, being absorbed and scattered, becoming fainter and fainter with every meter. And there's a quiet kindness in that. Dimming can feel like permission, a permission to stop looking so hard, a permission to let the world blur at the edges, and as the world softens, you might notice your own eyelids responding. Let them feel like gentle curtains lowering, not pushed, not forced, just settling. The body has deep habits around light and night. When brightness fades, the brain starts to shift its chemistry, preparing for rest. And even if you're not asleep yet, you can let your nervous system hear the message. It's nighttime now. It's safe to be heavy. Let the inner night arrive naturally, without any urgency. And in that night, we begin to feel another part of the ocean's personality: pressure. Imagine sinking slowly and feeling the water press evenly from every direction. Not a crushing squeeze, but a steady presence, like a hand resting gently all around you. In the sea, pressure increases in a simple way, roughly 1 atmosphere for every 10 meters of depth. That means that by the time you're 100 meters down, you're under about 11 atmospheres of pressure, including the air pressure at the surface, and deeper still, it becomes enormous. It's a calm reminder that down is not just a direction. Down is a weight of water. And yet, the ocean holds that weight gracefully. There's no need to resist what's simply surrounding you. In your own bed, you can practice the same feeling, to be surrounded by support, to be held evenly, without effort. Deeper still, we meet a slow, dark corridor moving through the sea. It's easy to imagine the deep ocean as stagnant, but water moves there too, quietly, patiently, as if the planet is breathing in slow motion. Some deep and intermediate waters carry oxygen down from the surface, ventilating the ocean's interior. In certain regions, surface waters become dense enough, cold enough, salty enough to sink, carrying oxygen with them. Then those water masses can travel for long distances, sometimes taking centuries to complete a circuit. So even in darkness, something sustaining is arriving. It arrives slowly, it arrives reliably. And with that arrival, we pause for a moment and let our own breathing become the main current. Take a slow breath in, as if you're drawing in cool sea air at night, and let the exhale be longer, like a wave easing back from shore. Again, inhale softly, exhale slowly, and once more, if it feels comfortable, a gentle inhale and a longer, quieter exhale. As you breathe, you can let your body loosen in small places. Soften your jaw, let your tongue rest. Release the muscles around your eyes as if your face is floating. We've already drifted from the bright, busy surface, Plankton turning light into life, down into this twilight layer where colours fade and pressure begins to speak, and you don't have to hold on to any of it. If your attention wanders, it's perfectly okay. If you miss a sentence, that's fine too. The ocean will keep telling its story and you can keep drifting. The way seaweed drifts, the way marine snow falls. You're allowed to blur the details. You're allowed to take little micro-sleeps. You're allowed to be half here and half gone and still be safe. And as we return, let the water around you feel like velvet. Dark water, soft and endless. And now, gently, we listen. Somewhere in the distance, a whale calls. It's not a sharp sound. It's a low, rounded tone, like a slow instrument playing in a deep room. In the ocean, sound can travel in ways that surprise us, because the speed of sound changes with temperature and pressure. There's even a region, often called the SOFAR channel, where sound can be guided and carried for very long distances, like a message sliding down a hallway. It's part physics, part layering, part the ocean's own architecture. Some messages travel best when held gently, and listening to that, you might notice something else. The ocean can feel silent from above, but it is full of sound. There are snaps and crackles made by tiny shrimp. There are clicks and whistles from dolphins. There are low rumbles from storms far away, and a constant hush from waves and wind. Even ice can sing and groan in polar seas. The ocean is not quiet because nothing is happening. It's quiet because its sounds are softened by distance and by the way water carries them. Quiet doesn't mean empty, and in that fullness, we meet a small kind of light. A blue-green sparkle blooms in the dark and then fades like a slow sigh. It looks like magic at first glance, but it's chemistry. Bioluminescence is light made by living things through chemical reactions, often involving a molecule called luciferin and an enzyme called luciferase, though nature uses many variations on the theme. Some animals flash to confuse predators, some glow to lure prey, some use light to communicate like gentle signals in the night. Even darkness can make its own soft light, a little glow, and then calm again. And now, for a moment, bring that image closer to you. Imagine a small, warm lantern of comfort somewhere in your chest, not bright, not trying to light the whole ocean, just a steady little glow that says, "You're safe." Visualization like this can shift the body's stress response, helping the brain step out of vigilance. It's not about forcing calm, it's about offering it. Your comfort can be quiet and steady, and quietly, the ocean performs one of its most astonishing bedtime rituals. At dusk, as the surface darkens, countless creatures begin to rise, not in one place, across the whole ocean. Tiny zooplankton, small fish, squid, gelatinous drifters. They move upward toward the surface to feed in the night. Then, when daylight returns, many of them sink again, returning to deeper safety. This daily vertical migration is sometimes described as the largest migration on Earth, not by distance on a map, but by the number of bodies involved. It's like a planet-wide tide of life. The planet itself has bedtime routines. In the planet's routine, there's deep time. This rising and sinking likely evolved as a balance between hunger and safety. Feed near the surface when it's dark, hide deeper when it's bright. It is a strategy written into bodies, repeated night after night, year after year. A slow choreography that may have been happening for ages beyond counting. Old rhythms can become soothing lullabies, and balancing gently, we notice some of the strangest travellers, transparent jellies, almost invisible, pulsing like a slow heartbeat in the water. They can be easy to overlook because they don't look solid the way we expect animals to look. But gelatinous zooplankton can be abundant, and they play important roles as predators and prey. Some catch tiny drifters with delicate tentacles. Some become food for turtles and fish. Some are simply part of the ocean's soft architecture, shaping energy flow in ways that are hard to see. What's nearly unseen can still matter. So softly, we let ourselves care less about solid and certain and more about gentle and true. And now, a quiet contrast glides into view. A graceful hunter moves through a cloud of fragile drifting life. It's one of the ocean's simplest truths. Food webs connect extremes. Tiny plankton feeds slightly larger plankton. Those feed small fish. Those feed larger fish, squid, seabirds, seals, whales. Energy moves upward step by step, like a slow staircase built of meals and motion. And yet at the base of it all there is often something microscopic. Strength can depend on tenderness, and depending on, the ocean begins to snow. Not snow made of ice, snow made of life. Pale flakes drift downward through black water, slow and steady. This is marine snow, a gentle rain of organic debris, dead plankton, fecal pellets, mucus, tiny fragments of once living things, and other particles clumped together. It sinks, feeding creatures in the deep that never see sunlight. It also helps move carbon downward, a quiet part of Earth's climate system called the biological pump. Even leftovers can become nourishment. Falling softly, it's hard not to feel sleepy with that image. And now, let's bring it to the inside of your mind. Imagine thoughts as soft flakes, not problems to solve, just little pieces of mental weather. A thought appears, it drifts, it settles, and you don't have to chase it. When you let thoughts pass without grabbing them, the mind can become spacious again, like deep water. Let your mind become spacious water, and in that spaciousness, we'll continue, drifting farther down where the open ocean becomes vast and slow, and the darkness grows even calmer. All around us now is volume, a wide, dark, quiet space that feels almost like floating inside a night sky. The midwater can look empty at first, but it is the largest habitat on Earth by volume, and it holds a great deal of life, sometimes more than we can easily measure. Much of it is subtle, bodies that are transparent, bodies that are delicate, bodies that glow only when disturbed. In this enormous space, life can be spread out like stars. Spaciousness can still be alive, and there's a particular calm to imagining the ocean this way. Not crowded, not noisy, just quietly inhabited. So for a moment, let yourself feel the spaciousness in your own room, the air around you, the distance between sounds, the space between one breath and the next. And now, softly, we follow a current that moves like a slow corridor. Some deep waters take centuries to circulate. It's a strange thought. Water that last touched the surface before any living person was born. It has travelled slowly through the planet's interior ocean, carrying heat, dissolved gases, and carbon. This is one reason the deep sea is so important to climate. It doesn't just respond quickly, like the atmosphere can. It stores, it delays, it holds, it is patient. Slow can be powerful, and when you're trying to sleep, patience is a gift, because the body often falls asleep the same way deep water moves, not suddenly, not by command, but by a slow, natural drift. So slowly. We turn our attention to the smallest caretakers. Imagine microbes, bacteria and archaea, working like quiet librarians of chemistry. You don't see them, but they are everywhere, and they are busy transforming molecules, shifting nutrients from one form to another. They help cycle nitrogen, sulfur, and carbon. They help break down sinking organic matter. They help decide what becomes available again near the surface and what settles into long-term storage in the deep. In a way, microbes are part of how the ocean stays an ocean. They keep the chemistry moving, even when everything looks still. The smallest workers can hold the largest systems, and held, you can feel your own body being held too. The water is cold down here, near freezing in many regions, and yet life continues. It's another gentle paradox. Cold but alive, motion but slow. Many deep-sea organisms have enzymes and membranes adapted to low temperatures, allowing their cells to function when warmth is scarce. Their chemistry doesn't rush. Their bodies don't waste. They fit the conditions. Life can soften into whatever conditions it meets, and that's a comforting idea to borrow. You don't need to be at maximum energy to be okay. You can be quiet and still be alive. And now, gently, think of pressure again. But this time inside the body of an animal. It can sound like a problem. How can cells keep working under such weight? But the answer is not magic. It's adaptation. Deep-sea life adjusts proteins and membranes so they remain stable and flexible under extreme pressure. Some animals have special molecules that help protect cellular machinery, keeping it from being squeezed out of shape. The structures of life can be tuned, like instruments, to play well in a different room. Support can come from within structure, and within, you might notice the structure beneath you, your bed, your pillow, the way the surface is holding the weight of your body without complaint. Feeling supported is one of the quietest signals the nervous system can receive. It tells your brain, you don't have to hold yourself up right now. You can let go. Let the bed be your ocean tonight. Let it be a steady pressure from below, evenly distributed like buoyancy in reverse. And as you're held, wonder drifts past. Somewhere in this dark water, a long pale form moves and disappears. We've told stories about giant squid for a long time, creatures of legend and fear and wild imagination. But the real biology is already enough. Large cephalopods have evolved powerful muscles and large eyes for life in dim mid-water. Big eyes are not just for staring. They're for gathering the faintest scraps of light, bioluminescent flashes, silhouettes, the gentle glow of something far away. In the deep, seeing is often about noticing a whisper. Wonder can be real and still quiet, and quietly real. We let the thought stretch backward. Cephalopods have an ancient lineage. Long ago, some of their relatives carried shells, leaving spiraled fossils that still appear in stone. Over millions of years, different groups evolved different strategies, some keeping shells, some reducing them, some losing them almost entirely, becoming fast, flexible, and clever. The fossil record is like a slow film reel of adaptation. Shells becoming lighter, bodies becoming freer, eyes becoming more tuned to dimness. The ocean keeps old stories in spiral stone, and those stories are not only in fossils, they're in delicate structures floating through today's water. Some tiny animals build mucus, houses, clear bubble-like constructions around themselves. Larvaceans do this. They filter food from the water using these structures, collecting particles that drift past. And when the house clogs, they abandon it and build another. Those discarded houses sink, becoming part of marine snow, feeding the deep. It's a hidden kind of architecture, a home built from softness, a home that becomes food when it's finished being a home. Even small homes can feed the deep, and feeding the deep, the ocean teaches another calm truth. Even when everything feels still, there is always motion. Particles drift, currents slide, bodies pulse. There are internal waves, slow rolling movements along boundaries between layers of different density. You won't see them the way you see surface waves, but they can move vast amounts of energy through the ocean, mixing nutrients and stirring the deep in gentle ways. Rest can include gentle motion, so gently, you can let your own body move in the smallest ways. A breath rising, a breath falling, a heartbeat, a soft swallow. These motions don't disturb rest. They are part of it. And now, it's time to meet one of the ocean's invisible wave stories. Internal waves travel along density layers the way surface waves travel along the air-water boundary. They can be created by tides moving over ridges, or by winds and storms pushing the upper ocean. They can travel long distances, and when they break, they mix layers that otherwise might remain separate. In the deep, mixing is not a chaotic crash. It can be slow and steady, like folding. Quiet movement can happen where no one sees. Beneath the surface, so much is happening, and yet it all feels calm. And with that calm, return again to your breath. Let it become rounder, like a slow swell rising and falling. If it helps, imagine your inhale as a gentle lift, and your exhale as a soft settling. Lengthened exhales can help signal the body to relax, shifting the nervous system toward rest. Your breath can be your tide, and with each tide, we find a gathering place in the dark. Not a place you'd see with your eyes, but a place you might detect with sound. When scientists use sonar, sometimes they see strong echoes from a layer in mid-water. This is the deep scattering layer, made of dense aggregations of organisms, tiny animals, fish, and other life, that reflect sound. This layer can move up and down over the course of a day, tracking darkness and light. It's like a hidden neighborhood that changes floors at bedtime. Even in the dark, there are gathering places, and gathering softly. We approach another kind of quiet corridor. In some parts of the ocean, there are regions where oxygen is lower than surrounding waters. These are called oxygen minimum zones. They form where the balance between oxygen supply and oxygen use shifts, where respiration consumes oxygen, and mixing doesn't replenish it quickly. These zones shape which animals can live there, and they also influence chemistry, changing how nutrients and elements cycle. Some places are quiet because they are delicate, and delicately, we continue. Now the idea of down becomes even deeper, and the sea begins to hint at its seafloor landscapes, ridges, mountains, and trenches, and soon we'll let ourselves descend toward those hidden terrains, where Earth's crust meets the ocean in slow, beautiful ways. Along the seafloor, the ocean holds landscapes that feel like the planet's secret geography. You might imagine the bottom as flat, like the floor of a dark room, but much of it is shaped into ridges and valleys, plains and peaks. There are mountain ranges down there that stretch farther than any you can see on land, because they run along the seams where Earth's plates slowly pull apart. A ridge rises from darkness like a long sleeping spine. The mid-ocean ridges form where tectonic plates separate, and hot material from below rises and cools, becoming new ocean crust. It's one of Earth's ongoing creations, happening quietly, far from sunlight. The planet builds in slow silence, and along that ridge, there's a gentle paradox. New rock forms, old rock disappears. The seafloor is not ancient everywhere. In many places it's relatively young in geologic terms, because plate tectonics keeps recycling it. Crust is created at ridges and destroyed at subduction zones, where one plate sinks beneath another. So the ocean floor is like a conveyor belt made of stone. It's always moving, always renewing, but so slowly that it feels still. Endings and beginnings can be the same motion. In the same motion, the ocean meets one of its most astonishing sources of warmth. In certain places along those ridges, seawater seeps down into cracks and fissures deep into the crust. There it encounters hot rock. It heats up, dissolves minerals, and then rises back up. When it emerges, it can pour out like dark smoke into the cold sea. These are hydrothermal vents, and the smoke is not soot. It's mineral-rich water that rapidly cools and precipitates tiny particles, creating a dark plume. It can feel like something from a dream, but it's chemistry and heat. Not magic, but black smokers. Heat blooming into structure, and blooming. We bring that warmth into your own body for a moment. Feel the temperature where your hands rest. Notice any warmth in your chest, your belly, your face. Comfort warmth can reduce stress signals in the nervous system. It's one of the simplest ways to invite calm. Let warmth be a quiet anchor. And anchored, we begin to sense a drop, a long dark valley beyond the ridge, a trench. Ocean trenches are among the deepest places on Earth. They form where a tectonic plate bends downward at a subduction zone. Imagine the crust flexing like a very slow bow, curving down into the mantle. The surface doesn't crack all at once in this picture. It yields over ages. It shapes a trench that can run for hundreds or thousands of kilometers. Depth can be vast without being frightening, and in that depth, time becomes almost a character. Subduction operates over deep time, recycling ocean crust and influencing earthquakes and volcanism. It is part of how Earth keeps moving heat and material through itself, and because it happens over millions of years, it carries a strange calmness. The biggest forces can be unhurried, unhurriedly. Life finds its own way to exist even near these deepest slopes. In the Au-Delà regions near trenches, creatures like amphipods hover and scavenge. They can look pale and delicate like drifting leaves. Food is scarce down here. Many organisms rely on whatever falls from above: marine snow, dead animals, occasional large meals, so they are shaped for patience, for waiting, for making use of what arrives. Even the deepest places have neighbours, and neighbourly, the ocean offers another contrast. Pressure is immense here, and yet soft bodies can still move. Many deep animals avoid gas-filled spaces that would compress under pressure. Instead, their tissues are mostly water and pressure-tolerant structures. Under pressure, having soft can be an advantage. Softness can be a strength. Softly, you can let your own softness be strength tonight. You do not need to be rigid to be safe. And now, another quiet kind of seafloor wonder appears. Not heat this time, but seepage. In some places, cold seeps release methane or sulfide-rich fluids from the seafloor. The water that emerges is often not hot like a vent, but it carries chemicals, and those chemicals become food. Microbes use them to build energy, and then larger animals depend on those microbes. It's a different kind of ecosystem, one that doesn't need sunlight. Not magic, but cold seeps. Life fed by chemistry alone. And fed, you can notice that you, right now, are allowed to be independent of effort. You don't have to achieve rest. You don't have to force sleep. You don't have to do anything. Letting go of performance goals can reduce the mental arousal that keeps sleep away, so you can simply be. Simply a body breathing, a mind drifting. And now, picture a wide plain of seafloor. Abyssal plains can be vast, covered in fine sediments, often food-limited and quiet. They can feel like deserts under the sea. And then suddenly there can be an oasis around a vent, a seep, a whalefall, where life clusters in abundance. The ocean distributes food unevenly. It creates quiet emptiness and then pockets of surprise. Seafloor deserts and oases. Surprise abundance can appear in quiet places, and surprising. The seafloor also keeps records. Fine particles settle down through the water, layer by layer, like slow snowfall. Over time, these sediments become an archive. They can preserve tiny shells from plankton, pollen carried from land, chemical signatures of temperature, even traces of volcanic ash. Scientists can read these layers to infer past climates and ocean conditions across thousands and sometimes millions of years. The ocean writes diaries in dust, and as pages turn, we arrive at one of the most tender, quiet, seafloor worlds, a whale fall. When a whale dies and its body sinks to the deep, it becomes a whole ecosystem. At first, scavengers arrive, sharks, hagfish, amphipods, feeding on soft tissue. Later, smaller animals and microbes take over. Eventually, even the bones become habitat, supporting bacteria that can break down fats in bone and provide energy for specialized communities. A whale fall can last for decades. It turns a single ending into years of nourishment. Even endings can become nourishment. And with that tenderness, we pause. Take 3 slow breaths. Let each exhale be a little longer than the inhale, like you're descending gently. Inhale, softly. Exhale, slowly. Inhale, softly. Exhale, longer. Inhale, softly. Exhale, longest. We've drifted through dim twilight, through midwater quiet, down to ridges and trenches and the seafloor's hidden oases. And you don't need to remember the order. You don't need to hold the names. You can keep only the feeling, slow, safe, unhurried. If sleep is arriving, let it arrive. If wakefulness lingers, let it linger. Both can float in the same water without conflict. Relax the small muscles between your eyebrows. Let your mouth soften. Let your fingers rest, heavy. And if your thoughts return, let them return like distant waves. You can watch them and let them pass. Now, in your imagination, see marine snow settling again. Soft particles drifting down and finding the seafloor. And we continue. The deepest plane can feel like a night sky turned sideways, abyssal calm, far from the surface, far from storms, far from the daily brightness of the sun. And yet, even here, nothing is truly isolated. The abyss depends on the surface, because much of its food arrives as falling particles. Currents still move through, chemistry still cycles. It's a paradox of calm, remote, and connected. Everything is connected, even when it feels far away, and connected. We begin to follow the ocean toward its inner seams again, where chemistry becomes food and darkness becomes home. In the deep, one of the calmest truths is that life does not always need sunlight. There are places where the ocean floor quietly leaks energy in another form, chemicals, heat, minerals. It might sound like something that belongs in fantasy, but it is simply Earth doing what Earth does, moving heat from inside to out, letting seawater circulate, letting chemistry meet biology. Not magic, but chemosynthesis. In these systems, microbes use chemical energy, often from hydrogen sulfide, methane, or hydrogen, to build organic matter. They turn the seafloor's chemistry into food, and then everything else follows. Worms, clams, crabs, shrimp, and other animals depend on those microbial foundations. It's a food web built in darkness, lit only by the soft light of understanding. Light isn't the only way to be fed, and now, imagine the dark as a blanket, not a threat. Some people instinctively tense when they think of deep water and darkness, but tonight, you are not in danger. Tonight, the darkness is just a room with the lights turned down. Reframing darkness, treating it as comfort rather than warning, can ease the brain's threat response. It's a gentle mental shift. Instead of, what's there, it becomes, how soft. Darkness can be a kind room. In this kind room, a strange and beautiful structure stands like a small tower. Tube worms. Some of the giant tube worms near hydrothermal vents can look like white candles with red plumes. Those red plumes are not flowers. They are gills, rich with blood, gathering chemicals and oxygen from the surrounding water. Inside the worm, symbiotic bacteria live and work, turning chemical energy into nutrition. The worm doesn't have a mouth the way we expect. It is, in a sense, a living partnership, a home for microbes, and a beneficiary of their labour. Cooperation can be a gentle miracle, real and unforced. Beside them, vents appear and disappear over time. A hydrothermal vent field is not necessarily permanent. As crust forms, cracks and cools, pathways for water change. A vent might weaken, another might strengthen. Chimneys can grow, collapse and grow again. Over years to centuries, these communities shift and relocate, following the moving heartbeat of geology. Some homes are temporary, yet meaningful. And meaningful. We look closer at the seafloor's velvet. Microbial mats can coat rocks in pale, soft layers, like underwater moss. These are dense communities of microbes processing chemicals from vent fluids or seepage. They can smell like sulfur if you could bring them up and stand near them. They are, in a way, chemistry made visible, quiet foundations holding everything up. Because above those mats, larger animals gather, feeding directly on microbes or relying on microbial partners inside their bodies. Quietly holding. The ocean offers another paradox. In many vent and seep environments, the chemicals that feed life would be toxic to many organisms. Hydrogen sulfide can interfere with oxygen transport in typical animals. Metals can be harmful, heat can be scalding, and yet, here, life thrives. The trick is specialization, adaptations that tolerate the chemicals, behaviors that avoid extreme heat by living in gradients, close enough to benefit, far enough not to be harmed. The right fit can turn harshness into habitat, and fitting gently. We watch mineral castles grow. At vents, hot, mineral-rich water meets cold seawater. Dissolved minerals precipitate out, building chimneys, layer by layer, like slow stone snow. The structures can look like dark spires or pale columns, depending on their chemistry and temperature. They are built by the meeting of two worlds, hot and cold. Structures can grow from meeting points. At the meeting point, you can also meet sleep halfway. Instead of chasing it, you can make room for it. Let it come when it comes. This is often more effective than effort. Acceptance reduces performance anxiety, and performance anxiety is one of the quiet thieves of sleep. So tonight, you can invite sleep without demanding it. Sleep comes easier when invited, not forced. And invited, we drift to another seafloor wonder that feels like a secret. A brine pool. Imagine a shimmering lake sitting on the bottom of the ocean, perfectly still. It isn't a lake of fresh water, it's a pool of extremely salty water, brine, so dense that it settles in a basin and doesn't mix easily with normal seawater. At the boundary, you can have a sharp interface, almost like a surface. Sometimes it shimmers because the refractive index changes across that boundary, bending light differently. These pools can be harsh environments for many animals, sometimes low in oxygen, sometimes rich in chemicals, and yet specialized life can live nearby. Stillness can have edges and still be gentle. Along that edge, the mind naturally wonders about beginnings. When you picture early Earth, you might picture oceans that were warmer, more mineral-rich, with different chemistry than today. Hydrothermal systems and chemical gradients are studied as possible environments that could support complex chemical reactions. Some researchers explore how energy and minerals at vents might have helped drive early steps toward life's chemistry. We don't need to solve those questions tonight. We can simply hold the image. Earth's inner seams, offering energy in darkness for a very long time. The ocean has always been a place of beginnings, from beginnings. We return to the living community again. Crabs and shrimp can gather where vent water mixes with cold seawater. Some shrimp have symbiotic bacteria living on their bodies, which they may farm in a way, moving through plumes to feed their microbial partners. Other animals graze on microbial mats. Some host microbes inside, like tube worms. It's a network of relationships, all organized around invisible chemical energy. Communities can form anywhere life finds a foothold, and footholds can exist in surprising temperature contrasts. Here is another gentle paradox. The deep ocean can be cold, near freezing, and yet geothermal heat rises locally, creating sharp gradients. A vent plume might be hot at its source, then quickly cool as it mixes with seawater. Animals often live at the edges of those gradients, choosing the comfortable middle. Not too hot, not too cold, like finding the perfect spot under a blanket. Warmth can be localized, like comfort in the chest, like comfort. We return to another quiet chemistry story. Not magic, but carbon burial. When organic particles sink, marine snow, dead plankton, discarded mucus houses, some of that carbon is consumed on the way down. Some is consumed on the bottom, and some can be buried in sediments stored away for long timescales. This is part of how the ocean participates in Earth's carbon cycle, influencing climate over time. It's a slow settling, a long-term storage, a gentle reminder that letting go can lead to stability. Let go, and things settle into place. Settling. Feel yourself sinking a little deeper into your pillow. Feel your body's weight being held. Feel the heaviness of your legs, the calm weight of your arms. Physical settling and steady breathing can reduce the body's vigilance, telling the brain it can stop scanning. You can be heavy and safe, and safely. We let ourselves drift onward, leaving the vent fields behind for now, and moving into the ocean's larger memory, its ice, its storms, and its patient storing of heat. The ocean is a vault of warmth. Even when the surface feels cool, even when wind skims the top and makes it shiver, the sea is holding heat in its body. Water is very good at storing energy without changing temperature quickly, which is one reason oceans buffer the planet's swings. The atmosphere can warm and cool rapidly, but the ocean absorbs and keeps and releases slowly. It's like a deep stone that stays warm long after sunset. Deep reserves can steady the surface, and if your day has felt changeable, let that be a comfort. Some part of you can be like the ocean tonight, holding warmth, releasing tension slowly, and now, softly, we let time stretch. Imagine ice advancing and retreating across continents, not like a rush, but like a long, slow breath. Over thousands of years, Earth's climate has shifted again and again. Glaciers grew, glaciers melted, sea levels changed, coastlines moved, and the ocean recorded these changes in quiet ways. Chemical signatures, layers of sediment, the tiny shells of drifting organisms that settled to the bottom and became part of the archive. The planet has weathered change before, calmly, and you can borrow that calm. Change does not always mean danger. Sometimes it simply means time is moving, calmly. We drift toward cold water now, toward regions where the ocean meets ice. Under sea ice, the world is dim and blue-green. It can feel like a different planet, and yet, life still finds a way to use the faint light that filters through. Algae can grow on the underside of ice, and in little pockets and channels within it. When seasons shift and light returns, blooms can feed zooplankton, which feed fish, which feed seals and whales and seabirds. So the ice is not just a lid, it can be habitat, it can be pantry, it can be nursery. Even under ice, life keeps a soft lantern lit, and softly, we follow warmth again, because the ocean is always moving heat around like a careful courier. A warm current can brush past a cold coast, and fog can rise, like the sea exhaling. Currents redistribute heat, shaping climates and ecosystems. They decide which coasts feel mild and which feel sharp. They influence where nutrients rise and where waters stay stratified. They can carry warmth toward ice and carry cold water away. Warmth can travel to where it's needed. Travelling. It's natural to think of storms, because storms love warm water, not magic, but hurricanes' fuel. A storm spiralling over the ocean can gather strength from a warm surface, because warm water increases evaporation. That water vapor rises, condenses, and releases latent heat, energy that helps power the storm's engine. It's a physical process, not a personality. A storm doesn't want to grow. It grows because energy is available. Energy collects where conditions invite it. And inviting, we can do the opposite. If any worry appears tonight, anything that spins in your mind like weather, picture it as a storm moving over the ocean and then moving on. It can pass without you needing to chase it. Label it gently, that's a worry, and then let it drift. Many emotions change when we stop treating them like permanent truths. Thoughts are weather, not destiny. And as weather moves, we return to a calmer boundary. Imagine the ocean as a layered blanket, warm on top, cold below. Between them, often, is a region where temperature changes quickly with depth. This is the thermocline. It's not a wall, but it can feel like a transition, a soft boundary where mixing becomes harder. These layers influence how nutrients and oxygen move. They influence where animals feed and where they rest. Boundaries can be soft, not harsh. Softly layered, you can let your own bedtime be like that. A warm layer of comfort around you, a cooler, deeper layer of quiet beneath. And somewhere between them, the gentle boundary where you're still listening, but no longer gripping. Wide time. Now. Picture a single carbon atom. It might be part of a molecule of carbon dioxide in the air. Then it dissolves into the ocean. Then a phytoplankton cell uses it, pulling it into sugar during photosynthesis. Then a tiny animal eats that plankton. Then a small fish eats that animal. Then maybe the carbon returns to the water as respiration. Or perhaps it becomes part of a sinking particle, drifting down as marine snow. Carbon moves through these pathways on many timescales: minutes, days, years, centuries. Some carbon is quickly recycled. Some is stored in the deep ocean for long periods. Some becomes buried in sediments. You don't have to hurry. Time is wide. And in wide time, the ocean grows forests. Not forests of wood and birdsong. Forests of kelp. In certain coastal waters, giant brown algae can form thick underwater canopies. Fronds sway like slow trees in green light, offering shelter for fish and invertebrates. Kelp forests can be highly productive, pulling carbon from the water, providing food and habitat, shaping local flow with their moving blades. They are places where the sea becomes almost like land, but softer. Forests can exist where you least expect, and where forests sway. light plays another quiet trick. On a bright day, sun glitter can cover the surface like scattered coins. Then, as evening comes, the glitter fades and the ocean becomes a dark plain. This is a simple transition, but it changes the behavior of life. Some animals feed when there is glare and brightness. Others wait for dimness. Some rise when the world grows dark. It's a reminder that endings can be gentle. The day can end without ceremony, and without ceremony, the ocean can shift the weather of the whole planet. Not magic, but El Niño. In the Pacific, ocean and atmosphere are coupled like dance partners. When trade winds weaken or patterns change, warm surface water can spread eastward, altering upwelling, changing sea surface temperatures, and shifting where clouds and rain prefer to form. The effect can ripple outward, influencing weather far from the Pacific. Droughts in some places, floods in others, altered storm tracks. It's a quiet demonstration of connection. Distant places can influence each other softly, quietly influencing. You can notice the stable distance around you. The room is here, the bed is here, the night is here. Whatever happens in faraway oceans, you are safe in this moment. Orienting to safety cues, feeling the pillow under your head, the blanket over your body, the steady air in the room can reduce the brain's urge to scan for threat. Here is safe, now is calm, here and now. We return to the idea of the ocean as an archive. Sometimes the record is in sediments, sometimes it's in shells. Tiny shells made by drifting plankton can incorporate chemical signatures from the water they live in. Isotopes of oxygen, for example, can reflect temperature and ice volume. Other chemical markers can hint at nutrient levels or ocean circulation patterns. When those shells settle to the seafloor and become part of sediment layers, they turn into a quiet library, a small object carrying a long history. Small objects can hold large stories, and history brings us to another gentle paradox. Warm water on top of cold water can act like a lid, reducing mixing. As surface waters warm, they can become more stratified, making it harder for deep water to bring up nutrients or oxygen. In some regions, this can influence marine life, changing where productivity blooms, altering oxygen levels, shifting the balance of ecosystems. It's not a simple story of good or bad. It's a story of layers and movement. Layers can change how we share what we have, and changing gently, we drift onward. The ocean's climate memory fades behind us like a shoreline at dusk. Ahead, the deepest edges of the sea wait, trenches and hadal plains, where pressure becomes almost unimaginable, and yet the mood can remain calm. And we will approach them the way the ocean approaches everything, slowly, softly, one more quiet detail at a time. The idea of the deepest trenches can sound dramatic, like the ocean is saving its most intense scenery for last. But when you imagine it slowly, the mood changes. A trench floor lies under miles of water, darker than midnight, quieter than any room. And the darkness isn't a threat down there. It's simply a lack of sunlight, a soft, steady absence. The hadal zone, the deepest parts of the ocean, includes these trenches, carved where tectonic plates meet and one bends downward. If you picture it from the side, it's like a long valley, except the sky above it is water. And water, at that depth, is not just water, it's weight, it's pressure. Still, the feeling can remain calm, quietly. Imagine you're watching this depth from a safe window. You're not falling, you're not struggling, you're just observing, warmly curious, like looking out at snowfall. That sense of safety matters. When the mind feels in control, curiosity can stay gentle instead of turning into alarm, so you can let your imagination roam without your body needing to tense. Curiosity can be soft, and now, consider the scale of pressure. At the surface, we live inside 1 atmosphere of air pressure, pressing lightly on us all the time. We rarely notice it because it is balanced inside our bodies. But in the sea, every 10 meters adds about another atmosphere. So by 100 meters, it's around 11 atmospheres. By 1,000 meters, it's around 101. And in the deepest trenches, the pressure becomes hundreds of atmospheres. It's hard to picture because we don't have a daily sensation for it. But the seafloor holds it calmly. The ocean doesn't panic under its own weight. It simply exists. And sometimes it helps to remember that some burdens are not personal. They're environmental. They're just part of the world, pressing evenly. You don't have to interpret them as failure, and simply, we let time become part of this story again. Trenches are not formed by a single moment. They are shaped by deep time. A plate bends downward over ages, forming a long scar where one part of Earth's crust slides beneath another. The motion is slow, centimeters per year in many cases, a fingernail's growth rate. And yet, given enough time, that slow motion becomes a trench thousands of meters deep. Time can carve without violence, just persistence, with persistence. The Hadal world learns to live in conditions that sound impossible. Microbes thrive in dark sediments. Small scavengers patrol the bottom, and the food that arrives is often rare, like a parcel delivered on a long, uncertain route. Sometimes it's marine snow, sometimes it's a dead fish, sometimes it's something larger, an animal that sank, a sudden feast. When nourishment arrives, it can be enough. Not endless, just enough. And there's something soothing in that too. You don't need infinite energy tonight. You only need enough to breathe, enough to relax, enough to let sleep do what it knows how to do, still connected. Even the deepest places are not completely cut off. It's easy to imagine trenches as isolated pockets, like separate worlds. But the ocean connects everything with its slow movement. Particles sink, currents slide along slopes. Water masses exchange gases and chemicals over time. The deep is connected to the surface by the quiet rain of material falling through the water column, and by circulation that moves slowly, steadily, like a sleeping animal's breath. Being alone doesn't mean being disconnected. And now, gently, we zoom in, not on a fish or a crab, but on life so small it becomes the background itself. There are pressure-loving organisms called piezophils, microbes adapted to high-pressure environments. Their enzymes and membranes are tuned to work where pressure would disrupt typical biochemistry. In a way, they're specialists in quiet. They make a living in the heaviest places on Earth. That isn't magic. It's fit. It's adjustment. It's the slow, patient way life explores possibility. And for a moment, you can find your own fit. If you need to adjust your pillow, do it softly. If your jaw is clenched, let it loosen. If your shoulders are up near your ears, let them drop. Small comfort changes can reduce tiny arousals that keep the brain awake. Your body knows how to settle, and settling, return to the image of particles collecting in the trench. Trenches can trap sinking material the way valleys trap snow. Organic debris can drift down and gather along the contours of the Hadal floor, not evenly, in patches, in drifts, which means the deep sea's food can be uneven too, quiet deserts beside little mounds of nourishment. Some places gather what others lose, and the creatures that live there learn to be patient and then efficient when something arrives. Unhurried, that's another theme here. In cold, dark places with limited food, Slow metabolisms can be an advantage. Many deep-sea organisms conserve energy. They don't waste motion. They don't sprint through their days. They are designed for waiting and for using what comes. Slowness can be wisdom, and you can borrow that wisdom tonight. You don't have to rush to sleep. You can let sleep come at its own speed. And now, we meet another quiet survival strategy. In low-light environments, some animals are nearly transparent. Reduced pigmentation can make it harder to be seen. In mid-water, transparency is camouflage. In deeper zones, pale colouring is simply what happens when pigment is less necessary. A nearly translucent fish drifting in dimness looks like a suggestion rather than a body. And there's something oddly comforting about that. You don't need to be bright tonight. You don't need to perform. You can fade into rest. And okay, there's another paradox. These creatures can be delicate, soft, thin, and yet they endure under pressure that would destroy many human-made objects. One reason is that water inside tissues is not easily compressed. If you're mostly water and you don't have big air pockets, pressure becomes less catastrophic. Cells are protected by chemistry and structure. Life can be fragile-looking and still be durable. Delicacy can endure, enduring softly. The deep ocean also sits near zones where Earth can shift. Subduction zones can generate earthquakes, but from the hadal floor, so much of that drama is distant. Not every tremor becomes a crisis down here. Sometimes it's a subtle movement. Sometimes it's nothing noticeable at all. It's a reminder that not every disturbance needs your attention. Your nervous system can learn to ignore distant noise, let it pass. And if you notice a sound in your room, something outside, a creak, a distant car, see if you can treat it like faraway ocean noise. Present, but not important. Just background. Reappraising a sound as non-threatening can reduce the startle response. Background can stay in the background. And now, softly. We take a quiet pause, the way the ocean pauses between swells. Take a slow inhale, counted gently to 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. And exhale to 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Again, a slow inhale to 4, and a longer exhale to 6. And one more time, if it feels good. Inhale and exhale. Let your hands unclench. Let your tongue rest where it wants to rest. Let the heaviness in your legs be a comfort, not a problem. We've drifted past reefs and plankton and twilight, down through mid-water, along ridges and vents, into trenches where the world becomes simple again, dark, cold, and steady. And you don't need to keep track of the path. You don't need to remember the names. If your mind wants to float away now, let it. If sleep wants to arrive, it's welcome. If you only remember a single image, soft marine snow, a glimmer of bioluminescence, a ridge like a sleeping spine, that's more than enough. You're allowed to fade. And as we return, imagine velvet water again, a soft black blue that holds you. And now, gently, we begin the slowest ascent in feeling, if not in distance, not rushing upward, just letting the mind widen again, from the extreme edges back toward a broader, calmer wonder. Picture the ocean as a whole, its volume, its breadth, its patient motion. It can be helpful to imagine it like a great dark blue lung, inhaling and exhaling through currents and tides, warming and cooling slowly. The ocean's vast volume shapes global heat and chemistry and life. It is bigger than almost any human scale we naturally hold in mind. And in that bigness, your worries have room to shrink. Not because they don't matter, but because they don't have to fill the whole sky. They're small enough to set down. set down, like a pebble placed gently on sand. And now, let's stretch time one last time. Waves polish rock. Rock becomes sand. Sand becomes sediment. Sediment becomes stone. Then, with tectonic lift and erosion, stone becomes land again. The ocean participates in these cycles without ever needing to hurry. It erodes, it deposits, it dissolves minerals and returns them, it writes and rewrites. Everything can be smoothed with time, smoothed like your forehead, like your shoulders, like the edges of thought. And in the distance, night has its own music. Some reefs crackle softly after dark, full of small pops and clicks. Even if you've never heard it, you can imagine it, like a gentle fireplace made of living sound. Soundscapes can carry information in the sea, guiding larvae toward habitat, reflecting the activity of a place. Night has its own gentle music, and that idea can apply to your room too. The tiny sounds around you, air shifting, fabric moving, can become your bedtime soundscape, a gentle music with no meaning required, and resting. We return to the surface for a moment, not as a destination, but as an image. Moonlight scatters on waves, creating a glittering path that looks almost like spilled silver. Below, the deep stays dark and steady, light and darkness, side by side. Some parts of you can sparkle, little thoughts, little images, and other parts can rest, deep and quiet. And if you like, let the sparkle fade, let the path dissolve, let the water become smooth, comforting. There's also the steadiness of tides. The moon's gravity shapes predictable rises and falls, influencing coastal ecosystems and rhythms of life. Under moonlight, the ocean can feel like a breathing animal, not dramatic, just consistent. Predictability can feel like comfort, and as you listen, your body can find its own predictable rhythm again. Breath in, breath out, a steady returning, and as forgetting begins to arrive, you can let it. Sleep onset often includes a soft loosening of working memory. Details slip away, order fades. This isn't a failure, it's a function. Forgetting can be part of falling asleep, so you can allow the information to dissolve, like ink in water, and if any part of you still wants one last wonder, let it be sound. A low note travelling through seawater can go far. Sound travels efficiently in water compared to air, which is why whales can communicate over long distances. A call becomes a thread connecting bodies across darkness, and tonight, the sound of this voice can be that thread for you, a gentle connection, holding you while you drift, through calm. We remember that whales themselves are a kind of homecoming story. Long ago, their ancestors lived on land. Over time, through gradual changes recorded in fossils, bodies shifted, limbs changing shape, tails becoming powerful, breathing moving to the top of the head, hearing adapting to underwater life. Return can be a form of homecoming, and tonight, your return is to sleep. To the oldest home your body knows, holding together. In shallower waters again, soft meadows sway. Seagrasses, true flowering plants adapted to the sea, stabilize sediments and create nurseries for fish and invertebrates. They also store carbon in coastal sediments, part of what people sometimes call blue carbon. Soft fields can hold the ground together, and softly, you can let softness hold you together too. You don't need stiffness, you need support. And finally, we return to waves. A wave is energy moving through water. The water itself mostly moves in small circles, rising and falling, while the energy travels forward. So a wave can cross the ocean, carrying motion, while the same water stays near its place. It's a gentle lesson. Energy can pass through without you carrying it. If a thought passes through you tonight, it doesn't have to stick. You can let it travel on. And finally, the sea continues. It keeps moving as it has for ages beyond any one night. Circulation persists. Tides return. Particles fall. Life glows, feeds, rests, and rises again. And you can sleep inside something enduring. And as you drift, we'll soon begin the ending ritual, where everything becomes a soft poem of motifs, and you're given full permission to forget and sleep. The ocean has carried us a long way tonight, from the hush of the shoreline to the wide blue surface, down through twilight, into the deep, and even into the trenches where the world becomes simple again. And now we can let it all return as a soft recap, like a poem made of calm images, a small wave sliding up the sand, leaving a shining film and retreating without hurry, a steady tide rising under moonlight and lowering again as if the sea is breathing. Sunlit plankton, tiny and countless, turning light into food, quietly helping the world breathe too. A calm surface that looks like a mirror, while life moves beneath it like a hidden city. Colours fading away in the twilight zone as the ocean dims its own lights, little by little. Marine snow drifting down through darkness like slow, underwater starlight. A ridge on the seafloor, a sleeping spine of stone, where new crust is born in quiet heat. A vent field at the planet's seams, where chemistry becomes nourishment and life glows without a single ray of sun. A trench floor deep and still, holding pressure the way your bed holds you, steadily, evenly, without complaint, and the gentle truth that currents move through everything, like slow rivers inside the sea, connecting far places without any need to rush. If any of those images want to stay with you, they can. And if they want to dissolve, that's even better. You don't need to remember any of this. You don't need to hold on to names or numbers or explanations. You can let the facts drift away like foam at the edge of a wave. You can let the scenes blur like ink spreading gently in water. Because the only purpose tonight was comfort. The only purpose was to give your mind something soft to float on while sleep arrives. So, if sleep is already close, you can lean into it. Let your breathing continue on its own, quiet and steady. Let your jaw stay loose. Let your shoulders stay heavy. Let your eyes rest deep in their sockets as if they've found the perfect dark place to settle. And if you're still awake, that's okay too. You can keep listening without effort. You can let the voice become part of the background like distant ocean sound in the night. Sometimes sleep comes in waves, a little closer, a little farther, and then suddenly it's here. So you can give yourself permission to drift, permission to miss sentences, permission to forget the order of things, permission to let your mind sink gently into the deeper layers of rest. In your imagination, picture one last slow snowfall of marine snow, soft particles falling, settling, becoming still, and with that image, let your thoughts do the same, falling softly, settling, becoming quiet. Thank you for spending this time with me, here in Sleepy Science Universe. I hope your night feels calmer now. I hope your body feels supported and your mind feels less burdened. And if you'd like another gentle journey on a different night, we'll be here again with another quiet science story. Maybe a drift through the night sky or a slow walk across a sleeping planet. But for now, you can let everything go. Good night, sleep well, and let the ocean keep breathing in your dreams.